Hi, everybody. My name's Joe,
I'm Roxanne.
and welcome to the Spiritual as Fuck or Whatever podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about spiritual wounds.
Yep. Yes.
You want to add more to what spiritual wounds might be, Roxanne?
Okay, well, we're jumping in, and we're not exactly sure everywhere we're going to go with this, but we're going to try to start addressing a question that I get a lot, and I've gotten more since we started the podcast. So having an Instagram that has the word spiritual in the name and being open about being somebody who's into higher power and spiritual practice and all that, I've gotten so many people contact me saying, well, how do I get back into this if I was harmed by a spiritual teacher or a religion? And there's so much sadness and wounding and a sense of loss. Also, there's these big blockages of if you're starting to go try to find deeper meaning and some sort of spiritual or meditation practice, there's going to be things that trigger you. So there's going to be these big roadblocks. There's going to be hurdles. And so I get a lot of questions about that. And I get a lot of people who are, really harmed. And that the ways that we get harmed, there's so many ways that we get harmed. And this is such a, it by definition, it's the core of us that gets fucked with.
The core gets harmed.
Yeah. If we're dealing with somebody's sense of the divine.
Yeah.
And it's, I have lots of friends who grew up in religions that were abusive, restrictive, shaming, gave them a sense of a higher power or God that was not their friend, gave them a sense of that they are just really wrong and bad.
Yeah.
I have had friends and I know people, and people are contacting me online who grew up in cults, who grew up with overbearing or abusive gurus or leaders or preachers or people who in their adulthood have opened themselves up to some sort of spiritual community and then gotten the shit kicked out of them emotionally, and or they opened themselves up and were vulnerable and then got taken advantage of.
Right.
And that is just, that's hard. That's trauma. And then when we go about healing, I think if you're somebody who is, well, I don't know, as a kid, but there is a sense of when you have had faith or connection in the past, and it is a really great feeling. And that even if it comes with ugliness, there's a way that we want to get back to that. And it's difficult.
Yeah.
It's really difficult.
Yeah.
And I think I've got enough questions, and then I told a couple people that I was like, well, Joe and I are going to talk about this.
Yeah.
Because I think you probably, I'm not sure if it's explicit, but the meditation groups you run, I think you probably have a lot of people that are coming out of feeling damaged by religion or spirituality, and are there because they're seeking something that is maybe going to give them a deeper meaning, but not going to be like, you better believe.
Yeah. I'm just thinking of what people that I work with and people that come to the meditation groups that I do. I think some of them, yes, maybe, for sure. But most of the people that I think are coming is to just relieve a little bit of the stress in their life. Mm-hmm. And I'm not presenting anything where it's this way or the highway or you need to do all this shit. It's just can we just think a different way? Think mm-hmm. about our causes and conditions and not take them so personal, kind of thing. Not take the mind so personal.
But they're also doing it in a group.
Yeah, so
So they're
there's a sense
seeking.
of trust, and we talk about like the trust thing, and especially when it comes to spiritual path, when you tap into something that is like you said, the core kind of thing of like, oh, there's a trust, and maybe it's our conditioning, maybe it's we're looking to somebody that's the teacher, that's how it's handed down, it's like
Mm-hmm.
that's the ultimate, but it's not the ultimate. What we're tapping into is the ultimate. So we want to feel safe. We go to these spiritual communities and we feel safe. There's some kind of energy, whatever it is, church, there's some kind of people practicing together. It's huge.
Mm-hmm.
Meditating together, meditation groups. When there's a big meditation group or even smaller, the community, there's something in that. We're doing this together. So there's some safety. So then when you feel safe and then you're tapping into something very vulnerable, very authentic, and then all of a sudden a teacher or something does something unskillful, you're unsafe and you're left with that vulnerable feeling, just totally exposed, and we lose sense that that's our birthright, is to tap into that. But we think it's because that person gave it to us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happens. And I see it a lot. I don't see it happening in my groups, I hope ever, really, because I'm practicing I'm a facilitator. I'm practicing with the groups, it's like I really watch that teacher kind of student relationship kind of thing, yeah. But I think it is because we are tapping into something that is so fucking mystical, really, and can we trust that? And it's like, for me, I couldn't trust myself. So even if I tapped into it and it was something because I was doing the work, I was on the cushion, I'm sitting, I'm doing all the practices, it was still, if any kind of community wasn't there, was a shift in the community, it was a loss of trust.
Mm-hmm.
It's like because I can't trust myself. So I've been relearning to trust myself.
Yeah.
I come from a community that I was a part of, and there was some unskillfulness within the community, and it imploded, and it got fucking crazy, finger pointing and wanting answers, and it was crazy, and it's still kind of lingering, but and I lost that faith. And I do feel like there was a faith, and the faith to me is trust. There was a trust in the practice, and I even put it on a pedestal of, oh, it's Buddhism, or it's this community that I was a part of. And I was like, fuck all this shit. Fuck these practices. This is a fucking bunch of bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Because look at these people. Look at everybody acting unskillfully, unskillful Buddhists,
Yeah.
So it was like, fuck. And it took me a while to tap back in to that. No, those are all symbols, they're all messengers, and those are all still my teachers in another way.
Yeah.
And so learning to trust myself, and kind of like we were talking about, is how can I make this my own? How can I take these practices and the stuff that really worked for me and apply those and transmute those? Doesn't have to be the way that they said it was, because they had whoever, a teacher or teachers or a community, a certain group, there's something that fucking opened up something to me. So can I tap back into that and make that my own? And I can.
Yeah. And I think the thing I really value, and I'm not sure it's talked enough about, is that being curious about oneself and being sovereign, being very like, I get to decide.
Mm-hmm.
And having that be a core part of how we engage as seekers. And so like we've had several conversations where I'm like, I don't like to be pressured about doing, woo-woo stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I get really upset by it, because I feel, and I think that there is a lot of this like joining thing, be the same, you're going to let down your guard, and that's going to give you this thing. And I didn't come from spiritual wounding in the sense of like in a religion, or, having somebody abuse me that was in a position of my spiritual teacher. But what I did have was intense abuse. And then that translated, luckily for me, into I don't have an easy relationship with authority, which has saved me. Authority has to prove themselves to me really a lot. And that was a very healthy, reasonable response. Authority was not trustworthy. But what that gave me was this, it definitely has closed me off from certain learning experiences, but it also gave me a sense of that I got to be allowed to, like, when we've talked about my experience being a part of a meditation Buddhist Sangha and going to teachers, or going and being a part of churches, or going and doing these things where I was checking in with myself more than I was checking in with what they were saying, because I trusted me more. Even though I was seeking, being like, I'm all fucked up and I've got all this stuff to work out and I really want this. And so that's the thing I would love to have people have more encouragement to do, is to trust themselves first, and be kind and listen to themselves. And of course, it takes time to notice the difference between being triggered by something and having a reactive, slamming the door on an opportunity, and the difference between that and having a clarity that this is just not for me.
Right.
But I also think honoring that we can do this ourselves. Like, I pushed back. I stopped. I mean, when you and I first started talking again, I was like telling you, like, I stopped going to communities for my spiritual development. And I felt a little shamed by it, like somehow I was less than, because I didn't join anything. But what I did was that I read a ton of books, and I listened to interviews with people, and I would go to places like, there's a church called Glide in San Francisco that I go, and I stand in the balcony and I sing and I dance and I, love it. And I will, I pay, I give them, I contribute money because I love what they're doing, but I am not down for everything about it. Mm-hmm. And I get to go if I don't like it, but I don't put anybody in a position of having control or power over my spirituality. Not even like when I really love a teacher. Like, I've gotten into where I've been like, oh my gosh, like there's a teacher that's writing a book, and that wrote this book and I really love them. And then I'm like, that's not healthy for me. Some people it's good. Some people that's great. But I think anything that deters me from being a safe place for myself, no matter what. And that's what I think faith for me is. Like, I absolutely am way more on the metaphysical, magical, quantum physics thing than you are. And I think I have more of the experience of there's this love, there's this thing that we can't explain, and I feel connected to something much bigger than myself at times. But I also am it really is about my ability to be safe for myself no matter what, because I don't have control out here. And I have a friend who's one of my great mentors, and she grew up in religion and was getting, was seeking and seeking and seeking, and she just could never, it didn't sit right with her. And then she was in the library, and somebody had recommended a book about atheism to her, and she went to the library and opened this book and started reading, and she sank into this feeling that she'd always wanted. And so she has a picture of the library, the room in the library where she found atheism. And for her, it was this absolutely freeing experience of going, I don't have to believe in anything.
Yeah.
And she said, she's like outright, I am an atheist. I do not believe in anything. And for me, she's like such a spiritual badass because she practices. She does a gratitude list every day. She is of service to others. She spends quiet time walking. She, like, so she would never, like, when I'm always like, oh, you're such a spiritual badass. And she's like, I'm an atheist, which I'm like,
Yeah.
terrific.
Yeah.
Trust yourself.
Yeah.
And she finds connection all over the place.
Yeah.
She finds connection through the earth and through the people in her life and all that. Anyways, I think like that first curiosity, consistent curiosity, doesn't matter if everyone says this is trustworthy, this is good, if my gut tells me no, I listen.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to kind of touch a little bit too. I know your past, and I know your, like the work that you've done, and you've been fucking doing it. And what I see is you definitely come from like I don't want to say definitely, but like a not fucking trusting anybody, and you've been doing work you've been on your fucking own since a pup. Yeah. And so you've been actually from that doing the work, taking your fucking power back and trusting in yourself, been doing that work for a long time. So, and I don't think that's necessarily true for everybody. It's not my story. My story is like, coming in even to spirituality, coming into 12-step, whatever it was like to be a part of. And so I was like, tell me what the fuck to do. Whatever. Yes. Okay. I want that. So it's like just I'm all in kind of thing.
Yeah.
Then when you do that, and that's how I did it, is all in, and then you're opening yourself up, you're vulnerable, and then all of a sudden, wait a minute, you're not exactly like I saw. It's different, and then we start losing that trust because we don't have that foundation. But what you're tapping into, I think, is if we can go back to even any spiritual practice that we do, and if there's been any kind of schism or any kind of thing that happened, can we tap back into the truth that not our teachers brought us to, but we tapped into, maybe just from the message, the feeling, the book, whatever, like your atheist friend. So that's been my path. Just recently, just within the last year or two, since we've been hanging out, it's like really coming into my own and taking all the teachings, all the messages that are really true to me, and tapping into where they're really embodied, and letting all the other shit go, because and I'm still learning how to, we talk about it and you see it come out where I don't trust myself a lot of times, and I think I need more, whatever it is. But yeah, and and on your atheist friend, like I'm more of that agnostic type kind of thing, where it's like, sure, there's something, it's just not what you're trying to tell me it is.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. It's like I kind of land more on that. But in Buddhism, what I like is like, you don't need to fucking believe anything. Just trust in the practice and trust in yourself. And it has the guidelines really of how are we navigating through this world, the kindness, the compassion, the gratitude, what are our intentions, all the, a guide to an inner truth, and then how we are presenting it, how we are fucking walking through this world, karma, all that kind of stuff, if you want to get into that.
Yeah.
But so it's tough, because for you, it seemed like you're a very strong, independent person. You really are. I mean, we know each other well enough that you're strong, and you have a knowing about yourself, and you've been working on that for a long time. Yeah. And maybe I don't want to say most of it, but I haven't.
But don't you think, like, I mean, I am very open with that. I've had a very different experience than other people. I think that's one of the things that I'm like, why I teach what I teach, because of I was gifted with this very different experience.
You transform your story.
Yes, and that I grew up with abuse, but I also grew, I don't know, all this stuff, but I was like, I have been working on myself.
Yes, that's what I'm
since, super early.
Yeah.
Consistently.
Yes. That's consistently too. You have been really consistent.
Because I was given those opportunities and whatever. So, but I also think then if my experience, like I just want to be clear. Like I was all in. I just didn't make anybody else my leader.
Okay.
That I if you go like all in, like I have tons. I ask for more direction than almost anybody I know.
Yeah.
And people see me as somebody who is exceptionally independent and I do what I want and blah, blah, blah. And I honestly have a city council of people that I call. I have like 5 people I call before I make a decision because I have one of the ways I work on myself is I consistently am learning and asking for help and asking for that, but I don't make anybody my leader. And that I totally get that there are people who that's they seek and they want to join and they want to be like. Mm-hmm. And then if I can be the teacher on the out, like with my thing to go, yes, you can do that. And you get to have sovereignty, and sovereignty is like to be conscious of just like, don't completely do that. Mm-hmm. Just don't. Not that just don't because like it's easy, but like just have it in your psyche that's an option that if you catch yourself giving up all your stuff to somebody who's supposed to be your teacher, then they no longer are your teacher.
Right.
They are your God.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And then I think the other thing too is to allow that wounding to have its weight and to know that it's grieving. Mm-hmm. It was abuse. Mm-hmm. Whether people's intentions were good when it was happening, whether it's which a lot of abuse happens that way, but to allow, like, bring it to your professionals, bring it to people that can help you to just feel the feelings. And we're going to need support to do that. Yeah. But I don't think that it's important. No, I just want to have it like to go. It's like you don't have to join in order to be all in, and you don't have to make anybody your leader to let them be your teacher.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's all good and fine. And knowing that is cool, but it's definitely hard because it's definitely hard because again, it's like, trusting ourselves is fucking super hard. Mm-hmm. Especially most people come to the meditation practice don't come because maybe you are, but not me. My experience was I was fucking like, I fucking am fucked, help me.
Yes.
So I was, so most of us are coming with that already. So it's like, okay, how can, so just knowing that, and we're looking for somebody with all the answers sometimes. Mm-hmm. It's definitely what I was. I was looking for someone with the answers and somebody that I could relate to that had the answers, mm-hmm. And shit gets skewed. And there's a fucking trust in myself that I was tapping into from my teachers,
Yeah.
And having the professional help is so important. And what one of our friends touched on was, some of the way that they were raised. Mm-hmm. And I know people like that. It's like, fuck. Bonding. It's like, I'm so scared because I don't fucking believe what they're telling me, but what they told me, if I don't believe, I'm going somewhere I don't want to go.
Yeah.
But there was they still see some beauty. So it's like guiding them back to, well, what is that you trust? What is the message? What is the core message in that? Not what they were telling you, but what did you feel? What did you experience? think that's an important thing. And again, I'm not trying to push Buddhism or whatever.
Sure, Joe.
I'm not, but that's one of the things that, because I've always been a seeker, always have been, and still am. But the one thing that I like about the practice of Buddhist meditation is Buddha said, "Don't fucking trust me." He said fucking too. He said, "Don't fucking trust me."
Homie.
Hey, homie. He goes, "Find out for yourself. This is something to experience, not just because someone said it. Find out for yourself. Here's what I did. Find out for yourself."
Yeah.
And that's, I'm like, okay, I can wrap my head around that,
Well, I think there's a lot of people who are taking the teachings and and going to the core of what the teachings are. Like there's the Liturgist podcast where it's a group of people who are Christian or were Christian or coming from that that faith, who are addressing things that have been done to people in Christianity, but who are still like seekers and still down with the teachings of Jesus.
Yes.
Hillary McBride is she's one of the people on there, and she does retreats for women who have been harmed, and that just maybe even finding people who have been like harmed in the same way but are still showing up to just even heal it, but then also to take maybe what's good from it. This is my thing, and I know you have a thing about donkeys, but I have a thing about donkeys too.
Okay, what's your thing on donkeys?
I don't want our lovely listeners to get confused by the donkeys, so I'm just going to differentiate between
there could be multiple kinds of donkeys.
Your donkey of doubt,
donkey
right?
of doubt,
the dookie donkey of doubt, Duca donkey of doubt,
just the donkey of doubt.
Okay, well, this is a donkey story that helped me. So if you think about religions and spiritual paths and tools as donkeys, and that we're all just on our donkeys trying to get to the top of the hill so we can see what's there, and that we can on the way up be like, your donkey's stupid because you just sit around and don't talk. That's a stupid donkey. And somebody else can be like, well, your donkey's stupid because it started out in polygamy, and your donkey's stupid. I hate your donkey because it did all these bad things. But once you get to the top, you get off the donkey, and that the donkeys don't matter. Yeah. And even when you're at the top, you're still just a fuckhead. And so we're all just fuckheads on donkeys. And I can't, if I am judging a donkey by the fuckhead on it, then I'm like, I might not really make it to the top. Yeah. And if I discount a donkey that could get me a little ways because I didn't like its last fuckhead or the fuckhead,
it got you where you got.
It can, or to just be like, well, maybe I'm a relay person and I got to like start on one donkey and change my donkey and then go to a different donkey. And that's me. I've been a relay donkey. But I never I never owned a donkey. Like I've been like, I'll try on this donkey for a while, but we're all just fuckheads on donkeys. And don't get too connected to it, because that's what anybody who's like truly gotten there, like all the great teachers are all just like, none of that really matters. We're all the same. We're all this stuff. So once it's like, we need to hold on to our donkey on the rough spots. So we're going to be like, my donkey's the best donkey. This is going to be my donkey forever. And it's like, well, no. Or you've been on a donkey that then some fuckhead with the donkey has been fucking with you. And it's like, just get off the donkey.
Not the donkey.
Yeah. I mean, some donkeys can be exceptional. Like I have a hard time. I still judge some donkeys. I can't understand why some people are on some donkeys. It makes no sense to me. But I just really hope that they're going to make it up the hill, and then we can
hang out at the top.
Being fuckheads. Just slightly, or way more kinder fuckheads up there. So, and you don't even have to believe in anything. That's the, like, I think for me, it just goes, if I just even pick up tools and I like to try to weed through what, like the words, because a lot of words bug me. I'm a word person. So a lot of the delivery, a lot of the fuckhead talking about the donkey they're on, they say a lot of stuff that I'm like, but then I can be like, well, there's something there, like prayer. Like, I don't like how a lot of prayer has been put towards us, and I don't like a lot of it, but the truth is that, like, I have found benefit. I got willing to pray when I was in that absolute desperation, and that somebody was just like, just spend some time in some position that is doing nothing else, and just start asking for what you want. If you want peace, if you want to get through the day, if you are afraid about something, bring something in. And then I did it, and I'd be like, wow, I am like proven to be much better in everything I do when I just do this practice. So it doesn't, like, it could be power, positive thinking, it could be whatever we want to call it, but it really is just like, well, it works. Yeah. And so I could call it whatever.
Retraining the mind is what I call it.
Yes.
Because otherwise it's just shit talk.
Yes.
So why not, may I be at ease? Yeah. May I be at peace, over and over. Call it a prayer. Cool. But it's just like, can I just fucking make that louder than the other bullshit that's going on? I love the donkey. And I've also heard it was like, you have this raft to get across the river. You're across the river. You don't need to fucking carry the raft around anymore. It's like fucking, it's like, you got this. You got this. You got your own 2 feet. And there's fucking, the teachings are there. Make them your own. And then I'm into those people you're talking about. What is the podcast you talked? The
liturgists.
Yeah, the liturgists. Because I feel too like Jesus's message, fucking so dope.
Yeah, just the red parts in the Bible.
It gets lost, So get into that. Get into like even the practice, like a lot of the practices with the teachings in Buddhism, is that it gets fucking super heady, and you'll see me, I try to get all smart with it. I'm like, no, I don't need to do that. I can make it my own. I don't need to know all these Pali words, to really have a practice of my Buddhist practice.
Yeah.
No. So, and it's been a journey for me. It's super difficult, and I'm so happy that I have friends like you. They're like, yo, you don't need to know that. You know enough.
Yeah.
So
you are enough.
I am enough. And I'm coming into, so I know that kind of fucking fuck all this shit. To like, no, there's something there, something I tapped into. So can I tap back into that and make it my own?
Yeah. The other thing I think about healing is especially when we're seeking to have connection, is to be of service.
Yeah.
That don't, like, when we want, I really feel like I got saved from a lot of shit by being in a community that that taught me to focus more on giving than getting when I was really needy.
Yeah.
So I was homeless. I didn't have a family. I didn't have shit. And like, I was having very brave people tell me, like, show up and give. And that, when I show up and give, I feel connected to others, and I feel connected to something bigger than me. So just finding ways to give, finding ways to like show up and be there for other people in the midst of my darkest times has been the best thing. And that for me, that magical faith-filled connection, magic fucking mystical shit is generally when I am giving.
Yeah.
And giving honestly. So I'm not trying to be like, I am so great and I'm so together. It's like that giving from the place of just pure humanity. And
not giving just because you feel you want to get rid of a feeling.
Yeah. Or do it or whatever. I think it's fine.
I think
it's a good place to start.
It is a great place to start.
I call people sometimes and be like, how are you? Just because I'm like, I cannot be in my own head anymore.
Sure, yeah.
And it still works.
Yeah, that's true. And I think it gets
You're being a judgmental shit,
I'm
Joe.
not.
Giving is good.
Giving is super good. Super good. And I think that it loosens the grip on belief, and you start opening up to more faith.
Yeah.
Which is trust. And I feel like belief sometimes is like, I just want to believe. And it's like this holding on, or I believe this donkey is going to get me to the top. I believe. Yeah. And it's like, wait a minute, it's not. And you're still holding on.
Yeah.
And it's like, fuck. But if you let go, there's faith. And faith is a little bit more letting go.
Yeah. We should do a whole episode on faith because I keep wanting to do that.
Faith is trust to me,
Don't blow the episode because I want to talk to you about that. Don't blow the episode, Joe. So I just also want to say that there's no way we can touch on all the ways to heal trauma, and this is trauma, and it's insidious and difficult, and so I just want to put that disclaimer there too, that like it just because you put some things into action, don't shame yourself if it's difficult. Don't we're going to do a whole episode on shame. It's on our board right now, but keep just looking for ways to heal. And also I would just hope that like, if connection or the faith thing doesn't come, that just showing up in any way is actually doing the work. Just showing up. I showed up with books when I couldn't show up with other people. I showed up with audiobooks because I couldn't even sit still enough to read a book for a while. So it's like whatever way you show up, just listening to this podcast, you know?
Yeah. And tap into that part of you because if you're questioning and there's something in you that is maybe quieter than the fucking doubt. But if you can tap into that, something that your faith, whatever it was that you tapped into, regardless of who the messenger was, tap into that. And like you said, not pushing away all the fucking the doubt shit that's going in there. Maybe you can have both. Maybe you can have both and know when you can put your toe into it, one thing, and like that's enough kind of thing. You don't need to go fucking full in. We don't need to go full in. Just like, yeah, okay, because there is, if you're questioning your faith brought you to something and then it got all fucked up, what did it bring you to? Because that's still there.
Yeah. Good.
Cool.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Roxanne.
Do you want to do the outro?
Yeah.
We're done now, aren't we?
Yeah.
Almost.
So cool. Thank you very much for listening. And please, if you enjoyed this podcast, if you're getting something out of it, please rate and give us a little review. Would be awesome. It can be even just like Roxanne rocks kind of thing on the review. Really helps.
Joe is joyful.
Joe is joyful. I like it. Roxanne rocks.
Jolly.
Joe is joyful.
Jolly Joe.
No.
Also subscribe.
And share it with a friend, anybody you think that would benefit from this. And thank you to our podcast guru.
Oh, yes.
Even though
he has not abused that position
yet. Us. Jeremy Miller.
I think I could kick his ass, though.
Oh, you could seriously kick his ass.
Because he's so nice. I think
such a sweetheart.
He could maybe outpower me, but then I will get mean real quick.
You might do like a quick move.
Yeah,
to get
so
out
he's
of
not
a headlock
trying
or
anything.
Something. Yeah. So Jeremy Miller, you can listen to. He has a couple podcasts. One is Betterment Bros, and the other one is Flicks on Six.
Flicks and Six. There's question marks. We've said this like 900 times too.
I don't listen that well, so.
I don't listen that well.
And you can follow Roxanne at
spiritual_AF on Instagram, spiritual AF on Facebook. Check me out at spiritual-af.com to check out all of our events and online courses and all the shit we're doing. Boop-a-doo, boo, boo. Joe?
You can find me on the gram at underscore
Joe, stop saying it.
Instagram.
Yeah.
Underscore Joe.
On the gram. I'm cool. You know that,
Are you gonna
right?
let me fucking plug my shit or what? Underscore
Plug
Joe.
your shit.
Poopery.
Poopery.
Joe
Don't plug your shit. Let that shit go.
_ Joe.Clements _ or you can go joeclements.com.
No, Joseph Clements.
Joseph Clements.
Oh
It's
God,
Joseph
just
Clements.
sit down, Joe. Okay. So then you can also find us on Patreon.
Patreon. Go to the Patreon.
If you want to support us in keeping this podcast going, become a patron. Get meditations from Joe. He's amazing, even though I'm mean to him sometimes. You should see behind the scenes, though.
It's pretty amazing.
He gives me a lot of shit.
I do.
But I just happen to do it where we're being recorded, and then people are like, don't be mean to Joe. Yeah. All right. That's it, right?
Yes. Thank
Joe,
you.
I like you.
I like you too. You're awesome.
You're
This is awesome.
too. Yeah. Glad your donkey's near my donkey.
The donkey of doubt.
Donkeys.
Later. When you're feeling shit out of luck, remember you're spiritual as fuck. Or whatever.